over here. Good morning, and welcome to the best and slightly less disorganized positive live stream of your day. Those of you who are on locals would have seen me going through my little checklist that I'm trying to build up here as we start the streams. And yeah, I think everything is sorted. We're just, I'm trying to systematize this as much as possible. But I want to thank you, anybody who's here and watching this in the future. I hope not only is this an amazing morning, it's a Sunday morning. Sunday mornings are the best, right? That's the morning that many of us get to sleep in a little bit and get caught up with our lives and have a little bit of a slower pace to the day. Some of us, present company not included, unfortunately, especially today is going to be a little bit nuts. But I do hope this is another beginning of the best day of your life. Yesterday, hopefully, was the second best day of your life, and today's only going to get better. Hey, mate, it's good to see you, brother. And yeah, so let's hope we start it all kind of with that sort of positive vibe. Today's not going to be, all that overly in depth. Not going to get not too political. Just talk about what's going to be going on tonight, and I'm going to explain that. But let's all remember that we're all going to come together. Come on in here, and let's become, at peace with one another, and let's focus on acknowledging all the freedoms that we have. And let's work on expanding our freedoms in the future. And we do that through knowledge. We do that through not being in a permanent state of anxiety and focusing on positivity and being as, I hate using the word inclusive all the time because, there's some parts of the political sphere that have kind of weaponized that word, but really more open to everybody who may have slightly differing opinions. But we may, in general, agree on, the base layer of our personal freedoms and love for one another, all that sort of stuff. Hannah, thank you for joining me on Instagram. Hannah is one of the, organizers, supporters of the weekly freedom rallies that are in Toronto. And thank you, Hannah, for everything you and everybody else have been doing. It's amazing. And Salman, obviously, of course. And lots of love for all you guys. Getter. So if you're fed up with Twitter, you don't like the Twitter censorship, you can follow me and reach out to me via Getter at BJdichter.com. And I encourage everybody to join the local stream here where you get to watch me work on my checklist as I'm setting up. But there's going to be more to that in the future. I'm going to kind of expand locals only content. So honkingforfreedom.locals.com. You can try using the promo code. Hopefully it works for you. Free and the number 6, all capital letters, FREE and the number 6. And that should get you in and being able to participate and to comment. And if you do want to, contribute to the platforms that I'm trying to build out, then locals is a good way to doing that. Hannah, good morning to you as well. I got to tell you, it's like, for me, it's one of those little triggers when you start your morning with a very positive and loving, somebody reaching out and telling you good morning, and this is a great space for us to just be friends and love one another and all that sort of stuff. It's, for me, it's a great way to start the day, and it helps me, reduces whatever little anxiety I have. It tends to reduce, and I'm hearing from other people that it does the same. And so please join. Megan is in the chat. Max, good to see you, brother. Sonia, as always, I hope you have your coffee. I see you have your coffee emoticon. Everybody, I hope you start either coffee or tea or whatever floats your boat. And my mate Mike here hates coffee, but it's tea because, well, he's a Brit. And whatever makes you happy, Mike. I love you, brother. So a couple of things. The Not on Record is a legal podcast that myself and some other people, Max as well, help produce. We don't have an episode coming out tonight. Diana and Joseph and Chris have been quite busy with a number of very important cases. That podcast is important just because it really focuses on kind of the wrongfully accused and that phenomenon that's going on in our legal system. So we all talk about kind of the woke nonsense that's happening in education, in politics, in, I guess, local communities in some scenarios. But they talk about it really, the serious implications to our legal system and how them and people like them within the judiciary are doing their best to try to safeguard it and make it, force it to remain objective, which is what the goal of the legal system is. And yes, Sonia, it's not just coffee, it's freedom coffee. I agree. Love you for it. Tonight is going to be a little bit different. I'm actually going to try to simulcast to the stream here. I don't know if that's possible. And, I was hoping to get better audio quality to locals. So I got my splitter so I can split the microphone, but the little adapter, which was supposed to be in the same shipment, hasn't arrived yet. It's supposed to arrive today. So God willing, locals, you're going to get the audio quality that you all deserve. So I'll do it as soon as possible. I apologize and sorry for the delay, but we can yell at the company that's sending it to me. So tonight, we're doing a Twitter space, something I've wanted to do for quite a while. I got to know during the Freedom Convoy a group of American truckers, and we've been trying. A couple of us have been trying to get together on the road to meet at a truck stop or meet at a rest area or whatever. And we're going to be doing that. But anyways, we decided to come together tonight. Just a few of us. Gord has written an article that was published in Newsweek. It's an op-ed about what's happening in terms of Trudeau government, all that sort of stuff from a trucker's perspective. He's a Canadian who now lives in the United States, and the rest of them are like Taylor and Brian, and the rest of them are all American truckers. I don't know if Brian's going to be there tonight. Brian led the American convoy to Ottawa. And so hopefully he'll be there tonight, but if not, I'll bring him in at some point. Thank you for all the waves. And elect DeSantis joined Instagram. Well, I met, when I was in Florida, I met some of the people around Governor DeSantis when I was down there. Some really good people. And I got to tell you, of all the people in government in Canada and the U.S., it appears to be, or at least he's the most publicly vocal about the fact that he really understands all the issues that are occurring right now, not just in their specificity, but in the underlying philosophy that's driving it and some of the money that's driving it. So if you want to understand kind of the nonsense that's going on right now and what's driving it, he's been on this for, I don't know, almost a decade. Even when he was a congressman, he was quite, let's say, enthusiastic about combating some of the nonsense that just regular, normal, centrist people just don't want to deal with. So he's been great. So love you guys. DeSantis running for mayor of Vaughan, just outside of Danny DeSantis. Okay, I don't know who that is, but he's got the same last name, so can he be bad? I don't know. We'll check in. I do have a friend that is running for city council in Vaughan. His name is Richard Rupp. Become a good friend over the years, really well connected politically, understands all the issues. He's how should you describe him? He's got friends in multiple parties like I do. So he's not an extremist ideologue, the type of person that would be ideal for city council. So you can look him up. Anyways, so tonight we're going to do this Twitter space. We're going to bring some of the American truckers in, and for a couple of reasons. One, I want to get people a little more aware of what the life is for people who are truckers, the people who went and sacrificed and sat in Ottawa waiting, hoping that the government would actually acknowledge them and talk to them, which they never did. And the amount of money that they sacrificed in lost income, because most of them are small business owners, or they're working class people, sort of thing, and it cost them a lot. Certainly cost me a ton to participate in the Freedom Convoy. So we all had to sacrifice, and unfortunately, the government went out of its way to punish people for wanting to have a legal protest. And it's funny, the week after or 2 weeks after, I think it was the week after, there was like this extremist to the opposite side protest related to vegan, factory farming, whatever it is, which is fine. Everybody deserves the right to protest. And the government rolled out the red carpet for them. Oh, come up on Parliament Hill, come hang out here. But when you're working class folk, or your small business owners, no, then you're the enemy of the state. It's absolutely crazy, the state of our country. Sonia says, thank you to all the truckers, honk honk. Yeah, and when you see the online trolls, like the Twitter trolls they're basically API scripts that, oh, you're a loser. Whenever you see like an innocuous comment that doesn't actually attack your argument, it's either an NPC or it's a bot that's just regurgitating or repeating, copying, pasting comments, insulting comments for a script. So we can't think that Twitter is the real world, because it's not. Good morning, Maddie. Thanks for joining as well, brother. I appreciate it. So tonight, I encourage you, 8 o'clock at night, it's going to be Twitter Space. We're going to talk about not just trucking for the average person, kind of what's going on. And I want to get the American perspective. I'm mainly in the United States when I'm in the truck and not doing stuff like this or working on my other projects. And also their perspective on the Freedom Convoy and what they saw. It's really interesting. I've spoken to quite a number of people as I've been going back and forth from the United States, getting their opinion. A couple of people recognize me. The farther south I go, it's funny, the farther south I go, the more people recognize me for whatever reason. But just to get that perspective. And the other thing is, I want to talk about the economy, because I think transportation, especially when it comes to transporting certain goods and commodities, is a good bellwether for where is the economy going. And I want to get their perspectives. I want to know if they're seeing the same things that I'm seeing, because if they are, then we all have to start figuring out a way to prepare for a potentially looming economy for the next few years. So I thought it would be a great opportunity to bring them in, because I've been trying to do that for quite a while. So my experience with Americans going down there, because I when you go out in a truck, the really only people, I'm a little different, because I go when I can. I'll go to cities where I have friends, and I'll try to stay overnight and go meet them for dinner and stuff like that. Whether it's in New York or New Jersey, or where other places I've met up with people, Rhode Island, Boston, sort of thing. So I kind of try to have that dual purpose, to be able to get out and meet up with people. But so I've had a lot of interactions with people who are in receiving, warehousing, and other truckers at truck stops, and trying to gauge their opinion in terms of what happened to the Freedom Convoy. What do they know about Canada? Because historically, we used to joke when I used to spend a lot of time in the U.S. permanently, that we would say that to Americans, and I love you guys, it's not an insult, but to Americans, Canada is just a rumor. And because Canada really is infinitesimally small by comparison to the U.S. economy. So it's not really first on their radar. But the Freedom Convoy seems to have changed that, as well as Prime Minister Blackface Diversity, the most racist person to hold office in Canadian history. They wanted to make him, Trudeau, a global name. And, congratulations, they've done that, and to their peril. And as he's gone down the extremist path, that global brand of Blackface Trudeau has now come back and bit them in the ass, which is why I think his career is pretty much over in politics, aside from whatever appointment he might get after he is out of office, which is what I expect, that he would get some sort of UN appointment, dignitary, whatever, which is what he's going for. So in talking to people in the United States, I asked them, did you see the convoy? What did you think? What are your opinions? Just, general, try not to lead them into any direction. And it's amazing. In downtown Toronto, it's kind of like a bubble, like Ottawa is a bubble. And I guess Vancouver as well. People just kind of completely divorced from reality. Not everybody, of course. But a certain Substack who just watch CBC propaganda and take it seriously. They think it's real. Or any of the fake news legacy media. So they're kind of a special case. But it's amazing. It's not the same scenario in the United States, even in places like New York City or Newark or Atlantic City, whatever. Yeah, of course you get people on the other side of issues all the time. But I think the underlying base layer that the United States has that Canadians don't have is the understanding that their first fundamental right is freedom and free speech. It's the First Amendment in the U.S. Constitution. You can really see, it doesn't matter where they are in the political spectrum, that everybody there is uniform and they have the right to say and think whatever they want, irrespective of whether people like it or it's distasteful or whatever. It's their right, which I happen to agree with. People are allowed to have stupid opinions, and we can think of a couple of people who tried to latch on to the convoy. I don't know if they were intentionally trying to sink it or not, but they also had some really stupid opinions and big mouths. But you know what? It's their right. They're allowed to say things that I think are gross and whatever. Fine. It's a pressure valve. Let people say what they want, because we use speech. This is how I look at it, and many people, on the philosophy side look at it. The reason we have free speech is because speech is the tool we use for conflict resolution. And if you limit the ability for conflict resolution, you're going to have conflict. And that's why it's fundamentally important to both U.S. and to Canada. Anyways, so in talking to these people in the U.S., receivers, truckers, people working at truck stops, mechanics, had to go for some retorques a bunch of times. If you're in trucking, you would know what a retorque is. And it's uniform support, admiration, wow. Never thought the Canadians had it in them. I've heard that a bunch of times. Jokingly, I hear them say, well, the Canadians finally beat us at something, and good on them. And hopefully they do more of that. Like, just overwhelming support and love. That's why during the convoy, I remember seeing this one shot. It wasn't a picture, but it was a shot of a lineup of trucks, and it was all Peterbilts. It was all Packard trucks, Peterbilts or Kenworths for whatever reason. And they were Americans, but they were draping Canadian flags over the hoods or over the grills of their trucks. And I couldn't believe that. Like, we all know how patriotic Americans are for the Stars and Stripes. And the fact that they were willing to ordain the Canadian flag in support of Canadians was really, really touching. Like, that hit me like a ton of bricks. And for those of you who have either not lived or been to the United States frequently, the implications of that with the level of patriotism in the United States is unbelievable. Like, that is a once in a lifetime experience. I mean, hopefully that'll continue, because I think a lot more is going to happen as we go down this path of having commissions and hearings and investigations, which I haven't talked about for a reason. But I will talk about that more in the near future as things start to unwind leading up to it. Sonia, yeah, it was beautiful. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. So, shock that Canadians had such strength and just overwhelming love and support. And it was interesting. One of the things they've all said is, how did you guys keep it so peaceful. And I said that came down to myself and Tamara, because Tamara and myself both have this frame of positive energy and focusing on having people in our lives that have positive energy. Mate here will understand that, even though he's 4,000, 5,000 miles away. We're like brothers because we joke with each other, but we have that same underlying philosophy. And Tamara and I were the same way. And when I saw we were starting the convoy and had to get into the communications and the frame, that you got to build a frame for everybody. And I didn't want the frame to be anxiety and anger at Trudeau. We saw a lot of the, F Trudeau flags, and which ironically became the unifying phrase from people in Quebec and people in Alberta and Saskatchewan and Manitoba. It was amazing. But, I mean, that was more in jest and jokingly. Yeah, obviously some people were seriously, but that wasn't the frame of the convoy. The frame of the convoy was peace, love, unity, and freedom. Were the words that over and over again I wanted to get out there in messaging. We put in our press releases, put on our social media posts from Tamara's account, from my account, tagged all the hashtags. It was peace, love, unity, and freedom. And also to enjoy ourselves. And that's why I think it was peaceful. And it was also helpful because we all saw what happened in January 6th in Washington, where there were provocateurs from the left, from these, Antifa militias or whatever. It's amazing how one side of the political spectrum can have a global militias going on unpunished. But anyways, these people from the militias were on site on the Capitol and started smashing windows and smashing the buildings in front of a bunch of people holding, Orange Man signs. And we knew that. Everybody on the ground understood that in Ottawa, and not to take the bait. That was very important. I think Jordan Peterson helped with messaging that to people, not to take the bait, that there will be provocateurs, that sort of thing. A couple of comments here from, hey, Jason, what's up, brother? Was the convoy a color revolution, or did it organically look that way? What do you mean color revolution? I don't understand. Not that I want to add to conspiracy theories or anything of that nature. I don't. Pardon me. I don't get the reference. Explain it, and I'll answer. And Delta says regressive tolerance. Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing we can see on the. I'm not going to loop in, my friends who are more liberal. I would call them centrist, even a little bit centrist left. I'm not going to refer to those people, but we can talk about the extremists. There's no tolerance there. They are the most miserable, most intolerant people you'll ever meet. And I live in a neighborhood that has a lot of them, and a lot of them happen to be gender studies professors for whatever reason. So maybe that's why they're doing some of the stuff that they're doing. That's also another point to bring up, that on everybody they keep putting this white supremacist boogeyman bullshit. Oh, our politicians do this here on the intolerant extremist left. Like, oh my God, the boogie. Like, stop it, because we see on the political right. I know I was going to get into politics, but just a little bit. On the political right, the people who actually are stupid like that and say stupid things, who should have the right to say stupid things, they have zero institutional power. Zero. Nothing. And we see by how some of them that were vocal, and I don't know, intentionally or unintentionally sabotaging us, how they were treated by the political establishment. They're a pariah. Okay, fine. But on the left side, and this is what my centrist and liberal friends need to understand and are slowly starting to understand. You see Bill Maher, the gears are starting to grind. He's starting to figure out that there's something wrong here on the left. It's because the extremists and the violence on the left, that is the institutional power, and that's the difference. Look at what Führer Biden did this weekend, in front of, that backsplash in Philadelphia, it looked like it was the First Order giving a speech and all the red lighting. You don't get much more intolerant than that. And there's your evidence that the extremists on the left hold institutional power. On the right, they have zero institutional power. And in fact, they're doing their best to try to maybe go a little bit too far to reach the more liberal or left, people of the more left type of political persuasion, instead of just being objective and being honest and letting them come over to you and understanding that some people will support you when they disagree with you on a certain policy. It's like nobody's 100%. But anyways, that's Sonia says that's not even Biden. Well, yeah, I mean, Biden's got dementia. He has no idea what's going on. But that is the, I mean, we have the similar problem in Canada and the U.S., the exact same problem. Biden doesn't make any decisions. Trudeau doesn't make any decisions. Biden has dementia. Trudeau's an airhead. Both of them have extremists around them that are running their offices. There's a group of extremists running the White House, and there's a group of extremists running PMO in Canada. And both the leaders are mascots, and that's the problem, right? Grace, CBC ran their documentary from last winter on the convoy, clearly a ramp up in efforts to create outgroups now that Biden declared war on Trump. CBC draws direct line to the CPC and Paul Livery. Yeah, I mean, the CBC's not, I mean, it's just fake news. That's the only way to describe it. I'm going to try to do that watch party with the Punchy McGregor documentary, which now I've gotten through 20 minutes of it, and it's painful to watch. It's so bad. It's so bad, not just because it's completely inaccurate, but it's just horrible. It's just horrible in every possible way. But it's kind of like watching a car accident. You can't turn away. Like it's got a little bit of that element. Jason, color revolutions happened all over the world. George Soros has used this method overthrow governments. I thought someone got wise and flipped the script of these rotten bastards. You might have to watch Ukraine on fire. Yeah, I have a good friend of mine who is Ukrainian, and you know, my old business, one of my staffers was he was Russian, but you know, he kind of explained to me during the Crimea thing that Crimea was predominantly Russian, and he is half Russian, half Ukrainian, and he explained to me that's most of Ukraine. Most of Ukraine is half Russian, half Ukrainian, because Stalin was moving people all over the country. So he said, you know, the Westerners are stupid, his words, not mine, because they think it's always got to be black and white, like you're either Russian or you're Ukrainian. You're either good, you're either bad. And, you know, both of these friends of mine, one who's Russian, one who's Ukrainian, who all have intermixed families, are trying to explain that they're trying to make it like that, but that's not how it is. And but I'm not going to get too much into that because I don't want to muddy the waters. I know people have been, you know, emotionally driven to have certain opinions and ideas, and I think that detracts from the idea of people should have the freedom to believe and say whatever they want, even though it's incorrect. The other thing is when, you know, you bring up George Soros, and I think Scott Adams was talking about Soros over the past couple of weeks, and boy, I think he has Soros nailed down to a T. I think Soros is, me personally, in addition to him, I think he's either autistic or he has some serious trauma in his life. Like, I don't think he's all there. I think there's something wrong. There's always been something wrong. But because he's kind of like Rain Man with finances, and we live in a world often where if you're wealthy, then anything you say is the gospel, and I think he's been able to exploit it. But I think he has not been well his entire life, which would make sense growing up during the Holocaust when he said it was an amazing experience. We've all seen that 60 Minutes interview. I don't know that that's as much evil as it is trauma or maybe some sort of mental illness. Maybe I'm trying to be charitable, right? I mean, I could be completely wrong, But what Scott Adams brings up the point is, like, he's not all there. He's 85 years old, and he's a hard 85. He's like Biden. And, he's giving away most of his wealth. He's giving it away to all these organizations we know that are subversive. But he brings up the question of how much does he really know? He's like everybody in kind of that world. If you've ever met them, they usually have 2 or 3 assistants or secretaries that do all their meetings and scheduling and decide who they're going to talk to. And what Adams seems to think is most of it is just corruption. It's people forming organizations. This is what we're going to do. They get a grant from his parent organization, whatever it is, Open Societies. And those are people who are just extremists who are exploiting them. And the people around him say, yeah, they're fine. We checked them out. Because he's only going to, trust the people who are closest around him. I don't know that that's the case. That's Scott Adams' case. He talks about it on his podcast. But you should... we always should hear the other side on every issue. We can't just always... feed up the echo chamber and start fueling our own opinions. We got to hear another perspective. And I think he's got an interesting, balanced perspective coming from both sides. Now, maybe he's wrong. I don't really know either way. I'm quite disgusted with some of the stuff that he has funded and been behind. But maybe it is all internal corruption, or maybe it is his own ideology that's fueling it. I don't know. I can't read his mind. Headshots, Babak, Hannah, Scott Adams. You should, if you don't know him, he's absolutely brilliant. I got into Scott Adams, actually, not because of Dilbert, because many years ago I've read Cialdini's books and a number of books by Robert Greene. And if you start to look for that sphere of information in the podcast world, you're inevitably going to end up with Scott Adams, which is how I got onto him. And again, it's important. We need to hear all sides of the argument, especially the ones we disagree with, just so we can challenge our own preconceived notions and ideas. I think that's healthy. I always said that most of my influences, I guess you'd think, growing up, they were kind of left, even though I'm not, because I'm secure in my worldview and my beliefs. So I want to hear people who challenge that and think differently, and it helps me have a better understanding of my own philosophical undertones and what fuels me. You don't get a better understanding of what you think if you're just in an echo chamber. You get a better understanding of what you think when you hear opposing views, of which there's not always one opposing views. Stephen Hicks had said on another podcast that I produce, Open College, he did an episode about how there's always at least 3 opinions, and Stephen is no conservative. He's an objectivist. And I think he's right that there's always at least 3 opinions. There's the people who are on, let's say, the more traditional end. There may be people who are on the more progressive end. There's people on the free market end, which is kind of, well, let's just see how things play out and not, run any preconceived notions or ideas. I'm sending you all waves back, everybody who waves to me. So thank you for joining. So I think that's important. And I'm going to talk a little bit more and more about it. And, people are going to see, he's not a real conservative, or he's not a real this. It's like, no. We need to understand all sides of the spectrum. And that's how we'll put an end to a lot of the divisive rhetoric, which we know is just in media and social media. Like, it's not in your daily life. Like, I go into my local coffee shop and I talk to the guys there, and I know the owners, and some of them are the completely end of the political spectrum, but we're not there for politics. We're just there to, hey, how you doing? How's your family? How's your kids? What's doing? And that's it. And that's, if we go forward with that frame, I think life is going to get a lot better. And life, I think, right now is really good. All this COVID nonsense, I think, is pretty much behind us. I don't think there's any appetite for any of it moving forward. If it's tried again this winter, I think that's a fantasy. It's not going to happen. So now we just got to worry about the economy and how we're going to weather the little bit of storm that comes through in over the next couple of years. And I think if we all prepare, or at least think about it and have it in our mind, and we're not blindsided by it, we'll be fine. Okay, so tonight, Twitter Spaces. Follow me on Twitter at BJdichter.com. I want to simulcast. There's an app that I've downloaded, registered, only used it a couple of times to do a podcast during the Freedom Convoy with Dan Held, who is very well known in the Bitcoin space, big investor in Bitcoin in a bunch of different platforms. Really nice, soft-spoken guy. I got a lot of time for him. He's just absolutely amazing. So we did a podcast, or at least he invited me on stage during a podcast during the Freedom Convoy. And so I've downloaded, I haven't used it, and I wanted to build it for people on Getter, because I know there are people on Getter who aren't on Twitter and don't have something like Spaces there, and Clubhouse seems to be limited for a lot of people. So that's where we're at. A couple of questions and comments, and if you have any more, throw them in the comment section here, and I'll get to them. Otherwise, we'll cut it short because we're already 40 minutes in, and I'm already going long again, which I'm trying not to do, especially since we got a lot going on tonight. So anyways, first comment. It would be interesting to get a deeper dive into the negotiator story. For those who don't know, there were people who started to negotiate on behalf of the Freedom Convoy in Ottawa without us knowing. And we found out after the fact, and it's quite interesting into how that has been snowballing, and that I think will be a problem for them in the near future, but I don't know. I have no idea. But yeah, it's an amazing story. It goes on and asks a bunch of questions and makes some conclusions that are incorrect. And so I'm not going to read the rest of the comment, because those are the sorts of things that I'm sure will be addressed in the commission when it happens. So I don't want to kind of jump the gun. There's some stuff that needs to remain for the commission to be submitted as evidence for the commission to consider for their report. So the rest of it, the only thing I'm going to say is not exactly. And the person who put that comment, you know who you are. So I don't mean that offensively. It's just there's so much more. You won't believe how ridiculous it's kind of been. But anyways, that'll work itself out, I'm sure. And the next comment, I like this because yesterday was a deep dive into the book, and then tomorrow I got another meeting about the book, and today I got to help rewrite another chapter, and just a lot of stuff going on. The comment is this: not sure if the title of the book, or second one, but I'm not sure if the title of the book could be "Trying to Herd Cats with a Broken Leg." Sounds fitting. And I saw that and I thought, boy, you have no idea how accurate that statement is. You have no idea. Wow, I saw that and I'm like, yeah, somebody saw what was going on, because herding cats would have been far more simple than what I and a couple of other people were trying to achieve in terms of people and groups going off on their own way and trying to create their own narratives. But it is what it is, and we did our best. Were we perfect? Of course not. Nobody is. But I think for me, the success was, I remember the last day when the last group of people that the police were kettling to move them out of Ottawa, and the guys were, remember, these are truckers. These are not, these are not weak people. These are not twinks in Starbucks. Like, these are strong guys that could be in a state of anxiety, and they know how to fight. They know how to defend themselves. But what were they doing? They were standing there in front of the police saying, "We love you. We know you don't want to be here. We're here for peace. We're here for love. We're here for freedom." and we're not here to fight. And that, for me, was an amazing moment to see that even down to the last minute, nobody took the bait, despite what the fake news smear merchants want to tell people. Comment from Grace. The link is a little bitty about the lefties' view on violence. I agree, the rhetoric is unproductive. I think the truckers set the right example of what to do. Yeah, we also see this on, my really, really conservative friends would get upset at this, but, hear me out. I hear over the years, I've heard certain news agencies, they'll always group liberals and progressives as the same. And I understand that's a political tactic coming from a political party, but that really shouldn't be what's coming from any sort of media. Because the whole idea of people who are liberal is they're supposed to be open-minded and willing to listen to all sides of an argument. And that seems to be where conservatives are right now, more so than ever. Because remember, in the 90s, when I was a kid, conservatives were trying to ban my video games and ban my music and all that sort of stuff. And they've completely done a 180 and become the political philosophy of tolerance and open-mindedness. And the people who are liberal, they don't understand that that's where you've gone. People like Dave Rubin understand that. Somebody who was, he went down that path from being, I guess, liberal to being progressive. And then Larry Elder, God bless that man, woke him up from his slumber. And now Dave sees himself as, more conservative-minded, but he's conservative-minded around the ideas of what a liberal democracy is, that we all get to speak, we all get to listen and criticize one another. So I don't think we gain anything by putting liberals and progressives in the same box. All that does is that empowers the extremists on the left. And like I said, they're the institutional power. It's because we've done that. We've pushed liberals and progressives together, where people who are in the center, the normies that really don't know what's going on because they're not so into politics, they have daily lives to deal with, they think they're now aligned with this. So I think we got to dial back that rhetoric a little bit and understand at the very least that spectrum, the lazy spectrum that we use of left and right, that it's progressive, liberal, and maybe conservative. But you all heard me on Michaela Peterson's podcast explain my triangle theory, which at some point I'm going to get a whiteboard in here and I'm going to do an episode about it and go into detail on it. Anyways, that's it for now. No more. That's all the questions and comments, and I'm at 45 minutes, which is 15 minutes longer than I need it to be. But thank you all for being here. Thank you for all your love. I hope you are enjoying your freedom coffee, and we're going to have more freedom coffee tomorrow and every day. So let's hope today is the best day of your life, and today is the second best day of your life. All right. All the best, and have a good night, and I love you all. And we'll talk to you soon.